Unlock this secret once and he'll choose you forever, even with 1,000 other options. The air around her crackled with an electrifying sense of possibility. Jenna stood in the dimly lit room, her heart racing as she gazed at the ancient book that lay open before her. It was a dusty volume filled with strange symbols, shimmering under the flickering candlelight. Legends whispered of its power, claiming it could bend fate itself. The scent of old paper mixed with a hint of something sweet, almost intoxicating. She felt the weight of history pressing down as if the secrets of the universe were waiting just for her. With trembling fingers, she brushed aside a cobweb and tried to decode the swirling letters. Each word seemed to pulse with energy, drawing her in deeper. What had she stumbled upon? The whispers in the town were always the same, that this book belonged to an ancient order of witches who could ensnare hearts with just a glance. She had shivered at the stories before, but now they seemed to leap off the page. A shiver chased down her spine. What if it were true? What if she could unlock a secret that would make anyone fall for her? But the atmosphere thickened, heavy with foreboding. What if she became a part of something darker? Shadows danced along the corners of the walls as if they were closing in, amplifying the tension in the room. A sudden thud echoed from the alley outside, jerking her head up. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. She wasn't alone anymore. Did someone follow her here? Her breath quickened. In that moment, she felt both powerful and vulnerable at the same time. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as she turned back to the book, a presence loomed behind her. She could feel the prickling on her neck. Something wasn't right, the energy had shifted. She cautiously glanced over her shoulder, her pulse pounding. A figure stood at the entrance, partially obscured by shadow, tall and imposing. Jenna's heart thudded as an icy fear gripped her chest. Are you ready to make a choice? The figure intoned, voice smooth yet ominous. Time hung thick with unspoken secrets. Jenna's mind raced. What kind of choice? What darkness lurked in their promise? The flickering candle cast eerie shadows as she faced the unknown, teetering on the edge of a decision that could change everything. Would she step into the abyss, or turn back? The room held its breath, and so did she. Would she dare to unlock the unimaginable? A chill enveloped her like a Sunday morning fog, thick and enveloping, as Jenna stared into the shadowy figure. Was it a guardian of the book? Or something more sinister? Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but curiosity, that reckless part of her, held her steady. What's at stake? She blurted out, her voice trembling, barely above a whisper. She cursed herself for the fear that wrapped her words, but this was her moment. She could either back down or step forward. The figure leaned closer, the dim light illuminating a face she couldn't completely make out. Power, it intoned, the aura darkening. To command hearts, to bend desires to your will. But power comes with a price. Jenna could feel the air shift. That word, price, reverberated through her, striking a raw nerve. She remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell. Magic was never free. Was she prepared to pay whatever this enigmatic figure demanded? Many before you have sought its allure, only to be consumed. The figure gestured toward the open book. The question is, where will your ambition lead you? She tore her gaze from the book to face the figure head-on. And what if I refuse? Then the secret remains untold, and you remain ordinary. The last word dripped with disdain, cutting through her resolve. The idea of mediocrity felt like a weight crashing down on her chest. Jenna glanced back at the open book, the symbols dancing before her. The room hummed with untapped energy. Did she have the courage to embrace the chaos? Or would she let fear dictate her fate? "I need time," she stammered, but even as the words left her lips, she knew the truth: the longer she hesitated, the more control she would lose. The figure straightened, its shadow towering over her. "Choose wisely, Jenna. An opportunity like this may never come again. But once the secret is unlocked, the darkness it harbors will be part of your life forever." A bead of sweat rolled down Jenna's spine. She felt the pull toward the book, each symbol whispering promises of power and longing. What felt like minutes ticked away in silence, stretching her anxiety to its breaking point. Then, just as she prepared to reach for the book, a loud crash interrupted the stillness, fracturing the tension into pieces. Jenna's heart raced. What was that? The figure shifted, momentarily distracted. "You must hurry." Its voice lost some of its smoothness, fraying at the edges with urgency. "They're coming. Those who guard the secrets even tighter than the witches did." Now the danger was real, palpable. Jenna felt her mind swirl. Who was coming? And why? The thought sent a tremor through her resolve. Time was slipping away. What should she do now? Was she ready to taste the forbidden? Push her question aside, or grab at the chance before her? With everything at stake, she had seconds to decide. As she raised her hand toward the book, the pounding footsteps outside drew closer, echoing like a wild beat resonating in the chest of the night. Would she unlock the unknown? The inner door rattled violently, and Jenna's heart jumped at the sound. She realized then, this moment could lead to love, fear, or something darker altogether. The weight of her decision loomed over her like a storm about to break. Would she dare to dive into this uncharted abyss, or was she even supposed to? Jenna's breath hitched as the footsteps grew louder, hammering against her eardrums like thunder. Panic flared within her, igniting her fight-or-flight instinct. She was on the precipice of something unfathomable, and time hung heavy in the air, dragging along the seconds like molasses. "Do it!" the figure urged, its voice now tinged with desperation. "Claim your future." With the pounding resonating outside, doubt wormed its way into her mind. 1,000 what-ifs cascaded through her thoughts, taunting her resolve. What price would she pay? Was she truly ready to cross this line? But as the door rattled again, sharper this time, Jenna's hand trembled above the ancient tome. She could practically feel the energy vibrating through her fingertips. The thought of being ordinary, a life filled with missed chances and unfulfilled dreams, clutched at her heart like a vice. Just make a choice. The figure snapped, eyes glistening like dark jewels. The book won't wait forever. They won't either. Fear wrestled with ambition as Jenna squared her shoulders, her pulse roaring in her ears. The silhouette of the figure seemed to merge with the shadows, a swirling blend of temptation and caution. She could sense it, the undeniable pull that called to every fiber of her being, the quest for power, for control. Then, with a swift motion that felt both liberating and terrifying, she thrust her hand down toward the book. The moment her fingers brushed the pages, an electric surge shot through her. The symbols glowed brighter, pulsing with an ancient rhythm that resonated with her very soul. "Too late to back out now," the figure whispered, a knowing smile creeping across its lips. The vibrations intensified, echoes of a forgotten language wrapping around her like tendrils of smoke. Jenna's vision blurred as the room spun. She saw flashes of power, faces, desires, all crumbling beneath her will. The taste of ambition was sweet on her tongue, but her heart reminded her it could easily turn sour. Suddenly, the inner door splintered, shards of wood exploding inward. A group of figures emerged, cloaked in darkness, faces obscured but eyes shimmering with menace. Jenna's resolve shattered, and she felt her grip on the book slip as the weight of fear settled over her. "No!" the figure hissed. "You must complete the incantation." Jenna's heart thundered in her chest like a war drum as she battled against the surge of panic. The cloaked figures advanced, their presence suffocating, urging her to freeze. The shadows writhed and morphed around her, drawing closer, swallowing her whole. Quickly, speak the words. The figure commanded, desperation clinging to its tone, but nothing came. The ancient language eluded her, slipping through her fingers like sand. The encroaching figures grimaced, their intentions clear. The room was alive with menace, and Jenna felt utterly exposed. Choose or be swallowed by the darkness forever. The figure whispered fiercely, pushing her toward the brink. In that moment of chaos of imminent danger, Jenna had a choice to make. She could step into the unknown, unleash that which lay hidden in the book, or let fear consume her entirely. As she opened her mouth, not knowing what would emerge, the cloaked figures reached for her, and everything around her faded into blackness. What would she say? Would her voice carry the weight of magic, or was she destined to be lost forever? The darkness clung to Jenna like a wet blanket, suffocating and thick. She could feel the cloaked figures closing in, their intentions wrapped in the shadows they commanded. It was as if the very air around her had thickened, swirling with whispers that echoed in a language she could almost grasp but couldn't fully comprehend. Her heart raced, and she struggled to remember why she had come here in the first place. With desperation, she forced the words up from the depths of her being, her voice trembling. By the power of the ancients I call upon you. The words felt heavy, weighed down by uncertainty. The moment she completed the phrase, the symbols on the pages illuminated, blinding in their brightness, casting eerie shadows across the room. The figures stopped, their advance faltering, confusion flickering in the depths of their hidden faces. Jenna could hardly believe the power that surged through her veins. The book vibrated beneath her hands, a creature alive with might, and she felt every pulse echoing inside her. Continue. Don't let them break your focus. The figure urged, its eyes aglow with a fierce intensity. But doubt flooded Jenna's mind like a rising tide. What had she just brought forth? She was a nobody, a girl who had spent her life sidelined, and now she stood on the edge of unleashing unknown forces. The thought made her stomach turn, yet something deep down told her that giving in would only relegate her to a life unremarkable. By those who came before I demand strength. Control. She cried, her voice building in volume, fueled by both fear and determination. The bright symbols flared brighter, illuminating the room in a fearsome glow. Shadows recoiled as if stung, and the dark figures wailed in a cacophony, revealing fleeting glimpses of their twisted forms. Their elongated fingers stretched toward her as entreaty twisted into menace. Fool! One of the figures hissed, its voice a serpent's whisper, cold and knowing. You've only begun to dig your grave. Jenna felt the weight of that claim, yet the warmth of the power enveloped her like a protective cloak. Suddenly, it felt almost intoxicating. She drew on it, her mind racing with images of empowerment, control, and the life she wanted so desperately. This was her moment. Embrace it. The figure commanded, eyes wild with frenzied anticipation, but out of the darkness, an ominous laughter erupted, shrill and bitter. The force behind it rattled her, shaking her core. You think you can summon us? The figure sneered, stepping forward from the shadows, revealing a face twisted in anger, skin stretched taut over bone. We've come for what is ours. Jenna's heart dropped as the words settled in. They were not simply there to prevent her but to reclaim something deeply personal. Memories flooded her, mockery from peers, a sense of isolation igniting anger she'd buried for years. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps she was just playing with forces that far exceeded her comprehension. Seal the spell. Came the voice again, panic clawing at the edges of her own will. Did she still have the power to dictate her fate? And then she understood. It wasn't just about demanding power, it was about connecting with something greater, a force that could liberate or damn her. Taking a deep breath, Jenna closed her eyes, feeling the energy pulsating stronger now, a heartbeat that matched her own. Together we rise, she whispered, striving to weave her intent through the very fabric of the moment. As she exhaled, the glowing symbols suddenly exploded violently, shooting sparks throughout the room. The shrieks of the cloaked figures intensified, rising above the shattering silence. Panic gripped her heart as the world spun once more. The figures staggered, their forms shifting like smoke in the wind. Jenna didn't know what she had just unleashed, nor did she know who would be left standing when the storm passed her or them. But power surged, threatening both destruction and rebirth. "Awaken!" Jenna shouted, and as the words left her lips, the room erupted, and in that chaos, she felt an undeniable truth. Every moment brought her closer to a reckoning. Whatever choice she made next would alter the course of everything, but would it be too late? As the storm of energy howled around her, she stared wide-eyed into the abyss. What had she truly awakened, and at what cost? Would the shadows prove to be her allies or her doom? The answers beckoned, just out of reach. Jenna felt the air crackle, charged with energy that surged and collided. The symbols pulsed with a blinding light, filling every inch of the room, illuminating the twisted faces of the cloaked figures around her. Their wails pierced through the chaos like sharp glass, echoing her deepest fears. Would they pull her into the void, break her spirit, or even worse, strip everything away that made her her? "Fight, Jenna. You can't back down now." The voice of the figure flared through the tumult, a guiding force in the unsettling storm, but as she scanned the swirling shadows, their shapes began to refocus, revealing more than just empty malice. They were desperate, panicked, even. The irony clenched her heart. She had once been the helpless bystander, and now she was at the very center of their chaos. She could almost taste their fear. It rushed against her like cold water from a burst dam, invigorating and terrifying at once. "Steady," Jenna whispered to herself, her hands trembling as she clung to the book. The weight of destiny bore down on her. She realized she wasn't merely reacting. She was controlling something magnificent. Deep within, she felt the ancient power unfurling, a vast potential ready to break free. "Release us!" hissed the figure, its voice echoing a chilling promise. "We are bound, and you will pay for the shackles you impose." Sending a shard of panic through her focus, Jenna fought against it. "I will not yield," she shouted with newfound conviction, feeling the pulse of energy steady her resolve. "You came here for a reason, and it will not be your way." The figures recoiled as if she had struck them with a fist. Brilliant sparks erupted, illuminating the room in a kaleidoscope of colors that danced through the void. Shadows writhed and twisted, their dark forms melting like wax in a fierce blaze. But rather than banishing them, Jenna felt herself entwined in their essence, the energy knitting itself into her being, intertwining fear with the strength she craved. "Embrace the shadows," the figure continued, desperation pouring from its words. "You cannot control what is not yours." "Maybe," Jenna replied, her heart pounding, "but I can free what binds me." With that, she thrust her palms forward, sending a shockwave of light cascading outwards. The light shot through the figures, but instead of disintegrating them, it began to illuminate their forms, revealing fragments of their past sorrow etched into their faces, like shadows of memories long forgotten. For the first time, she saw them not as mere threats but as reflections of her own struggles. They echoed her pain, her fears, and her anger. She was not alone in this war. "Stop this. We are bound by a curse." One of the figures wailed, fragments of its formerly malevolent visage softening in desperation. "Then together we will break it," Jenna declared boldly, channeling the depths of the book's power flowing freely through her. Pretty soon, the walls of the room started to ripple and bend, shaping into something both dark yet hopeful. But all the while, she sensed that the shadows, despite their cries, would not relent without a fight. With every pulse of energy, the figures began to merge into a single entity, much larger than she had anticipated. It was as if they sought to take her, absorb her intentions into themselves. The light flickered, and for a heartbeat, her resolve wavered. "Fight back. Don't succumb." The encouraging voice ignited her spirit, reminding her that this was about reclaiming her power, not just within the confines of this room, but in her life. Together, she breathed, the source of her strength sparking beneath her skin, willing her to push against the dark tide. But as that brilliant light surged to face the looming shadow, the veil of darkness twisted and warped once more. Jenna gasped, a chilling realization dawning. What she was trying to conquer might just want her to complete something much darker than an escape. Then, the shadows began to whisper in unison, echoing a name that rattled her heart, flooding her with dread. Jenna, what had she truly unleashed? Did the power within her hold the potential to save or destroy? As the very fabric of reality trembled, she braced herself for what was to come. Would the next step pull her closer to freedom, or would it spiral into deeper despair? The choice loomed ahead, waiting for her to grasp it with both hands or let it slip away forever. The shadows pulsated and swirled into a vortex of confusion and dread, tightening their grip around Jenna's heart. The same name echoed in her mind, a haunting whisper threading through every anxious thought. They knew her. How could they know her? A pulse of fear shot through her veins, threatening to unravel her resolve. Jenna! They cried again, the name curling like smoke around her, wrapping her in a sense of suffocating familiarity. No! She shook her head vigorously, eyes wide, fighting to keep the darkness at bay. You don't know me. But something deep inside her stirred, a gnawing doubt linked to the shadows' cries. They were connected. She could feel it, a part of her essence echoed within them, a shared thread woven into the fabric of their existence. The anguish, the despair, the longing. It was all too palpable, too real. Let go of your fear, the guiding voice commanded, piercing through the chaos. You can find the truth hidden within. With trembling fingers, Jenna pressed the book closer to her breast, willing its power to strengthen her. This was her moment to fight or to fall into oblivion. She had harnessed energy before, she could do it again, but this time, it felt different. It felt personal. Why do you seek me? She demanded. What do you want? The shadows swirled faster, a cacophony of voices rising in a desperate wail. To be free, they answered, their combined voices sending chills down her spine. We are bound. As long as you exist, so do we. You must choose, stay chained or embrace your destiny with us. Jenna's eyes darted around the room, watching the shadows twist together, forming an elaborate figure cloaked in darkness. It loomed tall, no longer merely a whisper, but a tangible entity filled with desperation. The once menacing faces morphed into a singular expression, a plea she recognized all too well. Help us. We are fragments of you. You cannot destroy us without destroying yourself. But I. The words caught in her throat. Could she really align herself with these shadows? The revelation was staggering. They weren't just enemies, they were pieces of her forgotten past, manifestations of her fears and regrets. If she chose to embrace them, what would become of her? Would she lose herself in the process, or could she finally break free from the shackles that held her? Remember where you come from. The voice urged, the pressure in the room shifting, growing heavier yet somehow more inviting. You are the light and the dark. Both are your strength. Heart racing, Jenna shut her eyes, letting the whirlwind of agony and hope wash over her. She thought of all the moments that shaped her, the heartbreak, the loss, the anger that propelled her to this moment. What if she became one with the pain? What if the shadows offered her more than conflict? What if uniting with them could unlock her true potential? Show me, then, she shouted above the swell of noise. Show me how to break these bonds. A sudden hush fell over the room. The shadows drew closer, merging softly into her form, coiling around her limbs like smoke. For a fleeting moment, Jenna felt a rush of dizzying power, a flood of memories igniting her spirit. But beyond the pain lay a flicker of hope, an ember waiting to be kindled. In that instant, reality twisted again, and a figure stepped through the veil of darkness, a silhouette she had never expected to see. The familiar trace of his features pierced through Jenna's heart, illuminating the fog of despair clouding her mind. It was Danny, his eyes swimming with worry, and a force that could either save or shatter her. Jenna! He gasped, reaching for her. A battle raged within Jenna as time stretched, unmoored from its earthly foundations. Did she run to him, seek safety? Or should she embrace the darkness gathering at her sides? Which road would define her fate? As she stood on the precipice of decision, the shadows whispered her name again, this time filled with a quiet desperation. The tension in the air thickened, creating a palpable silence as she prepared to take the leap. Would she answer the shadow's call, or step back into the light with Danny? The choice was hers alone. Jenna's heart raced like a war drum, pounding erratically against her ribcage. She could see Danny's desperate eyes, and they felt like anchors in the swirling tempest around her. In that moment, everything shifted. The shadows tightened their grip, wrapping around her waist, urging her to surrender to their pull. But Danny stood there, a flicker of light in the suffocating darkness. Please, Jenna. Don't listen to them. His voice broke through the chaos, raw with urgency. The shadows recoiled slightly, as though threatened by his presence. She noticed the way his hands trembled, the unease etched on his face, and in a moment of lucidity, she realized just how high the stakes were. Jenna. The shadows pleaded, their voices rising in a blend of longing and despair. He can't save you. He doesn't understand your true self. We do. No. She shouted back at them, the sound reverberating in the air. I don't trust you. But the truth lingered between them, gnawing at her insides. Deep down, she felt the shadows speaking to a part of her she'd long buried. What if embracing them meant finally confronting her demons? The old wounds, the heartbreak and regret, were they all that defined her? Or could there be something more, something powerful hidden in that darkness? Don't be afraid. Danny stepped closer, his outstretched hand beckoning her. Jenna, I've seen what you can do. You're not weak. You are strong. His voice held a confidence that surged through her like electricity. She wanted to believe him. But how could she turn away from the urge to understand the very essence of her being? Embracing the shadows might grant her the power she had never known existed. Choose, Jenna. The shadows thundered, the air crackling as they swirled violently around her form. Join us and unlock your destiny. The room shivered with tension, and she felt a surge of emotions pressing down on her: fear, hope, anger, and longing all at once. She closed her eyes, picturing the weight of solitude and unrealized potential clinging to her like a second skin. Memories flashed through her mind, moments of joy, pain, the face of loss. Could it all coexist with what the shadows offered? Danny! She cried, the name almost a prayer. I don't want to lose you. You want to lose me. He moved even closer, constricted by the encroaching darkness but resolute. We'll face this together. You're not alone. Those words cut through the noise. She could feel the shadows hesitating, the swirling mass quivering at the thought of unity over despair. Jenna opened her eyes, and a newfound clarity washed over her. Maybe you're right, she murmured. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but the shadows shifted, intrigued. But I want to choose one over the other. I'll embrace both. A pulse of energy exploded from within her, and the atmosphere shifted, crackling like charged air before a storm. With her decision forged in steel, Jenna inhaled deeply, summoning the power brewing beneath the surface. A tremendous roar rose from the shadows, a blend of anger and astonishment. Jenna, no! They howled, their whispers now frantic. The ground trembled as a vivid light ignited around her, illuminating the dark figure defining her fear. It was a resounding clash between light and darkness, and Jenna stood at the center, bearing the weight of both worlds. Embrace all of me! She screamed, unleashing the tide of energy swelling within her. You wanted to break free? So be it. In that staggering moment, as the reverberations of her cry echoed off the walls, she felt the shadows shift. They recoiled, swirling violently, battling against the light erupting from her core. But as she held steadfast against the maelstrom, she caught a glimpse of something beyond the shadows, an intricate story, a tapestry of her past spiraling outwards. Faces of lost friends, fleeting moments of happiness, and buried laughter filled her vision, soaking her in a bittersweet nostalgia. "Where are you?" Jenna shouted, half in wonder, half in horror. The shadows were slipping through her fingers, and it became clear if they surrendered. Now, could she truly reclaim her lost pieces? The tumult in the room reached a fever pitch, tension coiling tightly around her once more. Something had to give, and her heartbeat echoed like a countdown into the unknown. Would she complete the transformation and fully reclaim her past? And as that crushing wave surged toward her, one question breathed life into the chaos: what awaited her beyond the next threshold of this shattering choice? Jenna gritted her teeth, the brightness radiating from her piercing through the darkness like a sword. The shadows writhed, their tendrils reaching for her, desperate to hold on. She had felt their allure, the whispers promising understanding and power, but now they seemed like wilted leaves caught in a storm. What is happening?" Danny breathed, his eyes wide as he bore witness to the war unfolding around them. The shadows recoiled further at her light, trembling like frightened animals backed into a corner. Yet, even as they shrank, Jenna felt a flicker of doubt crawl into her mind. "Remember your past. It's not just darkness." A memory flashed in her thoughts, a childhood friend, laughing, not caring about their flaws. "That joy is part of you. Stay with me, Jenna." Danny's voice cut through the confusion, firm but filled with his own desperation. "You're not condoning the darkness. You're choosing to fight with it, to harness it. That's the true power." His words ignited something within her, a flicker of hope fueled by a desire for fullness. But was it enough? A crack appeared in the swirling mass, revealing images of her regret, of choices that had led her here. Yet, among those memories, she glimpsed the faces of people she loved, a kaleidoscope of moments that anchored her to the light. "Release us." The shadows shrieked, their fury crescendoing. "Accept us, and we'll reveal the depths of your potential. You don't have to be afraid." The room trembled as though the very earth was split between realms. With each scream they voiced, Jenna felt the echoes of her own fears, as if they were merely amplifying her doubts. She could sense their want, their hunger for acceptance, but their promises rang hollow against the warmth growing in her heart. "No." She shook her head vehemently. "You twisted my pain into something monstrous. I want to let you take control." "Control?" The shadows buzzed with malice. "We offer freedom. You've limited yourself to a life of regrets. You're afraid of who you truly are." The weight of their accusation pressed down on her, and her heart rate quickened. Could they be right? Was her fear of embracing her full self what kept her shackled? The swirl of light within her held steadfast, each pulse tightening fiercely around her core. "Jenna. Look at me." Danny pulled her gaze back to him, and in that instant, their eyes locked like a lifeline thrown in a storm. "You are not just this light or this darkness, you are both. That's what makes you extraordinary. Together, we can illuminate the way." Her chest tightened with the urgency of his plea, yet it felt like a turning point. She could feel the shadows reel at Danny's unwavering spirit, sensing his fight resonating with her own. A surge of energy poured into her from his conviction, challenging the shadows at their core. "Now," she shouted, feeling the tide shift, "I will become my own. I am both light and dark." With that defiant cry, Jenna embraced the duality, her body enveloped in a radiant explosion. Light erupted outward, intertwining with shadows that bent and twisted, caught in her determination. They screeched, twisting like a tempest while the ground shook beneath her. "Join me or fade away." Tension spiraled through her words, cutting like glass. You can't have power over me, I define our path. A blinding flash enveloped the room, lancing through the shadows with the force of her conviction. The clash left her breathless, and for a fraction of a second, the world fell silent, as if holding its breath. The oppressive weight that had clung to her loosened its grip, flickering like a fading ember, but as the dust began to settle, she caught sight of a figure in the distance, straining against the remnants of shadow. Not just darkness, but something else, an entity detaching from the morass, its features becoming clearer. Who are you? Jenna gasped, fear creeping back momentarily. The mysterious figure smiled, a smile that sent shivers of familiarity down her spine. Your past isn't all that you think, Jenna. It's just part of the beginning. With those words hanging heavy in the air, Jenna realized her journey was far from over. Answers loomed just out of reach, deeper truths waiting to be uncovered. What revelations would this past figure unveil, and could it truly be the key to defining her future once and for all? The figure stepped closer, inching through the last remnants of shadow, eyes gleaming with a strange, inviting light. A wave of recognition washed over Jenna, mingling with a sense of dread. Who was this person? The silhouette grew clearer, and she gasped as the familiar features sharpened into focus. Lila? She whispered, her voice barely a breath. But, you're gone. The girl who had been her closest friend in childhood, the one she'd lost to pain too heavy to bear, stood there, alive, somehow suspended between realms. But this Lila was different. There was something ethereal about her now, as if she existed on the edge of a dream. Not gone, Jenna, just waiting. Lila's voice flowed like honey, soothing yet charged, laced with an otherworldly echo. You summoned me with your light. I'm here to guide you. Danny stepped closer, eyes darting between Jenna and Lila. What does this mean? He asked, his voice tight with a mix of hope and suspicion. How can you be here? Lila's gaze turned to him, piercing. Because Jenna allowed her darkness to surface. She bravely confronted what was lost. This connection opened the door to the old, where bonds revive and linger. Jenna felt the cracks of her heart widening as memories flooded back, the laughter, the secrets, the bond they had forged in childhood. Her heart thundered in her chest, caught between joy and sorrow. But you weren't supposed to come back like this. You left me. I was meant to, Lila replied, her expression shifting, becoming serious. Just like you were meant to confront that pain, to reclaim what was stolen. It's the path to unlocking true power, Jenna. There's more to you than you realize. What do you mean? Jenna's voice trembled, uncertainty swirling like fog in her mind. What power? Embrace it, Jenna. The light and darkness are gifts, Lila urged. Fear not the shadows, they are your source of strength. You can channel them into something more, not just for yourself, but for those who need guidance. While her heart soared at the thought, doubt crept close again. But, what if I fail? What if I can't control it? Then you'll learn, Lila said simply, a serene smile gracing her lips. Just as I did. You are not alone. The shadows were restless behind Jenna, churning and swirling in reaction to Lila's words. Something powerful surged within her, a warmth igniting at her core, blending both light and dark. It was heady, intoxicating, a glimpse of what she could become, but was it truly safe? Now is the time, Jenna, Danny interjected, squeezing her hand reassuringly. Trust in yourself. Use it. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of whispers swirling around them, begging for attention, for fear to consume her again. What if you become like us? A history lost in despair? No. Jenna shouted, clenching her fists. I refuse to let despair define me. I'm more. Lila's gaze softened, and for a moment, the shadows stilled, caught in a breath held in time. But as Jenna stood tall, her fear began to wane, the pulse of her energy flowing through every part of her. The shadows glared, rushing forward in a desperate attempt to reclaim her. "I choose my path," Jenna declared, her voice echoing with resolve. Light and darkness intertwined fiercely as she focused her will. Jenna felt the love of her friends behind her, the memories fueling her strength. She stepped boldly towards Lila, ready to forge a new path, and as she reached out, an explosion shook the room. A voice sliced through the chaos, deep, rich, and ominous. "You think this will free you? You still have much to learn." A tremor rocked the ground beneath them, and shadows coiled like serpents, ready to strike as Jenna felt her footing slip. What happens now? She thought, panic creeping in. In that moment of uncertainty, the shadows unleashed their fury, and Jenna braced herself, knowing that whatever came next would test the very core of her being. Would she fight, or would she succumb? The question lingered, heavy and charged. Would she rise to the occasion, or would the shadows claim her? Jenna was engulfed in chaos, the shadows swirling, angry and frenzied, wrapped tightly around her like chains. She stood at the crossroads of light and dark, balancing precariously as she faced Lila and Danny. The thundering heart inside her rasped against the confinement of her chest. The very essence of her being pulsed with raw potential, teetering on the brink of either extraordinary power or devastating despair. Lila's ethereal presence flickered like a dying star. "You can reclaim what's yours, Jenna. But you must confront the shadows, they are part of you. Only then can you find true strength." "Yeah, you can't let them define you," Danny added, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. "You're not alone in this fight. We're with you." The shadows hissed, their voices rising into a cacophonous roar, demanding to be heard. The room vibrated under the tension, threatening to dissolve under their pressure. "Embrace the darkness," they cried. "Together, we can unleash true power." "No!" Jenna shouted, the sharpness of her voice slicing through the noise like a knife. "You don't own me." In that moment, clarity washed over her. She could see her fears reflected in the shadows' rejection, pain, the haunting echoes of her past. But she wasn't just those fears, they were fragments of experiences that shaped her, not shackles that bound her. As the shadows lunged, Jenna exhaled deeply, channeling every heartbeat, every fear, and every moment of pain. She summoned the light within, feeling warmth blossom in her core. "I'll not only accept you, I will embrace you and use our combined strength to rise." With an explosive yell, she thrust her arms outward, unleashing a blinding wave of energy that coursed out in all directions. The shadows shrieked, their darkness flickering against her light, anger and fear colliding. But as the two forces collided, Jenna saw a shift within the wavering forms of the shadows, images of her past lived and breathed. Each glimpse unveiled an emotion she thought long forgotten, the fear she had carried morphed into determination, her uncertainty transformed into conviction. "Together we will not be swallowed by despair," Jenna cried, surging forward. "Together, we will lift each other up." As the luminous energy expanded, it intertwined with the shadow's essence, merging the two into something beautiful, a swirling vortex of chaos that held both hope and darkness. The room erupted in light, and within that explosion, Jenna felt Lila's presence tighten around her like a comforting embrace. Danny stood at her side, his face illuminated by the resplendent glow, steadfast as ever. "And I'll never leave you," he promised, his voice breaking through the tumult that surrounded them. Suddenly, the shadows stilled and transformed, swirling fluidly, no longer a menacing force but symbols of her growth, the ghosts of who she once was and who she could become. They started to flicker away, melding into the very fabric of her being, no longer threats but allies in her journey. A serene quiet settled over the room, wrapping around Jenna like a warm blanket. She felt whole, a kaleidoscope of experiences enveloping her, light and dark equally embraced. In that moment of radiant calm, she understood, power wasn't just about control, it was about unity, the acknowledgement and acceptance of both sides of herself. The figure who had first tempted her stepped back, dimming under the unexpected brilliance radiating from Jenna. You You've chosen a path few dare to tread, it murmured in awe. Yes, Jenna replied, confidence swelling within her. I've learned to forge my destiny, it belongs to me, not the shadows or the light alone. With that, the darkness began to dissolve completely, intertwining with her spirit, leaving behind a shimmering afterglow. The scattered remnants of the shadows faded, morphing into something akin to hope. Together, Lila and Danny stood firm beside her, gazing with pride and admiration. You've done it, Lila breathed. By embracing both sides, you've unlocked your true potential. But Jenna noticed something shift in the air, a bittersweet tension lingering. This isn't just the end. What happens now? Lila smiled softly. Now you'll step into the world changed, ready to wield your story, every piece of joy, every shard of pain. You can inspire others still trapped in their shadows. Jenna nodded, eyes shining with understanding. She had finally unlocked her true self. Ready to face whatever lay ahead, she took a deep breath, no longer shackled by fear or doubt. Let us go, she whispered, a smile breaking across her face. As they stepped toward the door, hand in hand, Jenna felt lighter than she ever had before. She was ready to define her destiny, ready to share her story of strength, one that would bring light to others lost in the darkness. Together, they emerged bright and unafraid, and that was how Jenna found her place in the world, a beacon of courage amidst the struggle, a living testament that it took both light and dark to illuminate the path to true power. This is where our story wraps up, but now, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of the incredible stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us show the world what we can do together. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us connect and build this amazing community.